the early Cash Money sessions was definitely a good time. That's why those songs resonate with people like that. Like, it was never pressure. It was never ever like, somebody going, I gotta make a hit. And I've always kept that word out of, us recording, because just to me, there's no such thing as a hit. We could do good music, and we could hope that, because after you finish that, you got to put it in somebody else's hands, then somebody else's hands. So it's so many things that make a record a hit record, but I'm like, hey, let's just concentrate on making good music. And our formula was just have a good time and enjoy the music. Like, most people will tell you if they sat in a Cash Money session, it was like a house party. It was literally like, because we did the homework on the song by just watching what people were doing around. What's up? This your boy, DJ Mannie Fresh, and I am a culture builder. Me and KL have always, big ups to Mantronics. Like, and if you listen to some of the production of Mannie Fresh, a lot of it is Mantronics. Like, my triples, the way I do snares and all of that kind of stuff. Like, to us, Mantronics was a god. Like, you know what I'm saying? And we never even met him young growing up. We just made this, like, whoever Mantronics is, he is the genius of all genius. And the dude was way ahead of his time. He was, so I remember KL actually got to meet Mantronics, but let me tell you what I was amped on. For my birthday, Red Bull was like, you can have whoever you want and we'll make it, like your wish list come through. And so I had Mantronics, I had Trouble Funk, and I don't know. I think it was somebody else. But long story short, they was like, Mantronics is coming. And I'm like, holy shit. And it wind up that I think he was living in London or something at the time or whatever, and he couldn't get his paperwork right to come over. And I was like, shit. You know what I'm saying? But since then, just through social media, we always talk. You know what I'm saying? And I always, say big ups to him, and and he always gives me back big ups as well. Like and things like, thank you for the shout out for always keeping, that name out there. And I'm like, bro, it ain't gonna never go nowhere with me and KLC. But to have Trouble Funk, who I said is a go-go band that we grew up on, and what was crazy about that birthday party that year, everybody that was a rapper, kind of like in our era, from No Limit to Cash Money, showed up for that party just to pay homage to, because, they all kind of was like, man, Tronic's going to be here. And I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. He ain't make it. But we still jammed to Trouble Funk. My man, Mantronics, had a huge influence on me as a producer, on my production, on how I do it, and my dude KLC. And KLC is the producer of most of the No Limit hits that you hear. He was the mastermind behind a lot of those songs that was crafted, his way or whatever. But both of us came up under Mantronics. Something that's crazy, a super memorable studio moment is Still Fly. When I was making Still Fly, nobody liked the song. I mean, like, it was like they had a campaign on destroying this song. Like, Baby was like, he in there singing some shit about everything in his mama name. We don't know what the fuck he doing. And then they would send somebody else in the room and be like, can you move to another track? Can you please stop doing this stupid ass song or whatever? I just remember it was met with so much, like, this is not the one. And it was overwhelming, like, how many people did not like Still Fly. And I was like, bro, I know what I'm doing. It was one of them. We damn near went to blows behind that song. Like, because everybody was just like, what you're saying on the hook is the dumbest shit in the world. And I was like, what I'm saying on the hook of this song is the way everybody in America lives. And that's why it's going to hit. I was like, the reason why this is going to hit, because it's really everything that happens every day. And I think it was because Cash Money was so all about, we got everything. It's all about the money. It's all about, and this song kind of downplayed that. It was just like, nah, this is really just, quarter tank of gas in my new E-Class, got everything in my mama name. And it was like, that just don't fit the big timers or whatever. And I'm like, dude, this one gonna go. So I think that right there was memorable. Like I said, we fought like a long time, like maybe 2 or 3 days about Still Fly. You know what I'm saying? And when the song came out, still to the day, and this is the interview, so y'all, none of y'all apologize to me yet, bastards. Another memorable moment producing another, song that won't die for nothing in the world, Back That Ass Up. Like, when we was doing that song, me and Juvenile was in competition. And what I mean by competition, his raps couldn't be bigger than my song. It couldn't be bigger than the beat. So we changed that song like maybe 3 or 4 times. Like, and it was done in kind of like in secret. And what I mean is he would do his raps, and I would be like, damn, his rap's killing the beat. So I would go back later on and change the beat. And when I left the studio, he would come back and change the raps. He would go, he's like, nah, I ain't do that right. And then I come back and it's a completely different song. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is he, So I was like, I got to change the beat again. He changed it to the vocals that you hear now, right? And I was just like, fuck, he is whipping my ass on this song. I'm like, so it was just a straight beat, right? It started out with where he rapped at, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do some shit like what a DJ would do. I put the intro on it. That was another one where it was kind of met with, why does it have this long fucking intro before it gets down to the... And I was like, bro, the intro is for cool-ass dudes at wedding receptions and shit like that, and people that's getting their drinks or whatever so they could get set up, and explaining that to somebody that rap, of course, they don't get it. And I'm like, bro, there's a reason for an intro. And I'm like, I know this is going to be a big song. Juvie was like, I don't want to be known as a dude that make booty shaking ass music. That's not what I do. I rap. And so that was 1, 2 that we went to, and I was like, bro, this is gonna be your biggest song. And he was just like, I don't see how you see that or whatever. And he was on, this ain't gonna even be a single. And I'm like, oh yeah, this gonna be a single. Like, so one of the, like I said, what was memorable, the arguments and stuff that we had behind that song. Like, and when it came out, he didn't know that I changed the string line to it, and I even extended the intro a little bit longer. So he heard it for the first time the new way when it came out. Of course, he was angry as shit, but when the song morphed into what it did, he had to take all of that back. Let me tell you what's special about Bling Bling. It's one of them things where the Wayne had actually said Bling in another song previously, probably 2 years before Bling Bling before I even wrote the hook to it. But Wayne used the line in something, and I knew it was something special about Bling. Like, I was just like, damn, that word is just like, it's untouched. Nobody never said that. Nobody done that. So I just remember I forget what song it was or whatever, but he said the line bling in something, and I was just like, something about that right there, the way that part of the song carried. And this was, like I said, maybe 2 years prior to even doing Bling Bling. And I just kind of, the way Bling Bling even came to, I actually really dreamed this shit. Like, when you have, like, sometimes you'll have something in your head that it keeps going on and on and on, and you got to get up and you got to record it. I made the hookup in my head, literally, and I was just like, I got to get up and record this. So I got up and I recorded it, and when they came to the studio, all of them heard just the hook. I didn't have, I didn't do the raps or nothing yet. I just had the hook to it. And it was just like, bro, this shit right here. Like, not that was one of the songs that everybody agreed that this is going to be a big song. It's going to be a big, big song. And the other part of it was supposed to be a big timer song. Because we were the blinged out dudes. But we kind of knew that we needed to give it to BG because his album was dark, and he didn't have songs that kind of was anywhere close to that. So we wind up giving that song to him. And like you said, the rest of it is history. The chemistry with me and Juvenile, especially on 400 Degrees, what made that a good album was two people being competitive. Like, the producer and the rapper. Just being competitive on wanting to win. And that made that album so good. Like, if you listen to some of 400 Degrees, Juvenile didn't know how to count bars yet, and I went wherever he went. I was like, hey, if it ends on 16 and a half, so be it. We're going to figure out a way to make the hook. Like, so some of them was, like the count of them was off, but it was so good that I was like, I'm not going to mess with him and tell him, chop this and take this out. I'm like, we'll just go around it and figure it out. But it was really us being competitive, me against him against me. And I think that's what made it a great, great album. The early Cash Money sessions was definitely a good time. That's why those songs resonate with people like that. Like, it was never pressure. It was never ever like, somebody going, I got to make a hit. And I've always kept that word out of, us recording. You could not say that. You could not say, I need a hit. Because just to me, there's no such thing as a hit. We could do good music and we could hope that, because after you finish that, you got to put it in somebody else's hands, then somebody else's hands. So it's so many things that make a record a hit record, but I'm like, hey, let's just concentrate on making good music. And our formula was just have a good time and enjoy the music. Like, most people will tell you if they sat in a Cash Money session, it was like a house party. It was literally like, because we did the homework on the song by just watching what people were doing around. Nothing really ever bothered me. We could have had 30 people in the studio, but if it was a hot song, it turned into, now you got 30 people making drinks, smoking weed, doing all kind of stuff. And you like, okay, this song is proven. This song is a hit because you could tell by just the response of what's around. So a lot of our sessions were equivalent to a house party. A really, really special, memorable moment for me was putting together Go D.J for Lil Wayne. Like that was super kind of weird because I had the thought of how we was gonna do the song, and the thought process of it was we was gonna send all of these radio DJs like a camcorder and let them video themselves or whatever on the air or whatever they was doing, and they just send them back to us, and we was gonna edit that in the video. Right, because we had already done the hook. We thought about the hook, but Wayne never rapped on the song. Right, so I was like, okay, but if this one is going to be a single, let's do something different so we could catch all of the DJs. Right, so I was like, hey, send them all camcorders and let's see what they send back, and then we'll edit it. So they start getting some of this stuff back or whatever, and Wayne is about to put the song down, So I was like, okay, bro, like we got the hook. Now you gotta, and he starts rapping and he ain't say a fucking thing about a DJ. He didn't say nothing about a DJ on Go DJ. If and we was like, well, bro, what, but by halfway the first verse, I was like, but it's so cold. Fuck, I'm not gonna tell him nothing. I'm like, I ain't telling them, I'm like, you didn't say nothing about, but everybody was like, bro, that shit is, and this was Wayne's first Carter, and this was him stepping up going, I want to be looked at as a lyricist now. But I was like, but you didn't say nothing about DJs. Like, so that right there was kind of, when I say that to people, they actually realize they're like, damn, he didn't say nothing about no DJs. His lyrics has nothing to do with the DJ. But it was just what he was saying was so nice. I was like, you know what? We leaving it alone. Let it fly. What's up? This DJ Mannie Fresh, and you're watching 24/7 HH. You heard me?